Aha.
There he is. Man of the hour.
Always. Everybody's here.
Are we on and running?
Yes. That's what
All right, very good. Pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We're shy one full member to have 5, so I'm going to nominate Henry to fill in as the alternate for tonight, so we've got a full board. First order of business is minutes for April 8th and April 15th. Everybody had a chance to review them? Any questions, any comments? Any edits?
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes for April 8th
I second it.
and April 15th.
I second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Shows unanimous.
I abstain.
Oh, Henry abstains. Yeah, you weren't here, that's right. First order of business. The Newmarket Zoning Board of Adjustment will hold a public hearing for an application from Glenn S. Bickford seeking a special exception pursuant to Newmarket Code, Town Code 32-5 to be nonconformity to permit the vertical expansion of a nonconforming structure located on real property with an address of 1 Lafayette Street, Tax Map U, Lot 32 in the R1 zone. Is anybody here? There you go, Glenn.
Yeah, basically the house burned down January 12th. Looking to rebuild some water and sell it to my son. The problem is the stairway, it was a cave and the stairway is too steep. So Mr. LeBeau suggested we go with a colonial, and therefore it'll be maybe 4 or 5 feet higher, 4 feet higher maybe than the cape was.
Same footprint?
Total height will be 29.7 feet. So,
Is it on the same footprint?
yeah, same foundation, everything, just the height.
And is that not allowed in that zone, that height, the 29 feet? Or?
No, it's within,
Oh, so it's just because the building is taller that,
because, yeah, so they've taken the non-conforming structure, because it's non-conforming due to its proximity to the road. They're
Okay.
doing a horizontal expansion.
okay, got it.
Vertical.
Vertical.
Vertical, sorry. Yeah.
Vertically, yes.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So does anybody have any questions? Is anybody here, abutters, or would like to speak to this matter, or present any data? Don't see anything?
Well, Mr. Chair, the only comment I have is this seems to be less than the maximum height limitation, so it seems to be within the ordinance, if I understand this correctly.
But where it's a replacement, it's higher, so that's why we're here. And the setback is closer to the road. That's the reason he needs a variance. It's a non-conforming lot.
Special exception.
Special exception.
I don't have
I
a
think that's gonna be the easiest one tonight. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair?
I will,
Yes,
ahead.
go ahead.
Well, you asked if there was a motion. I think you did.
Yep,
And
that's fine.
I move that we grant this variance requested by Mr.
Not
Bickford.
a variance, special exception.
Sorry?
Special-
Special
I'm sorry,
exception.
special exception. We grant this special exception requested by Mr. Bickford.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? We got to do a roll call vote.
Aye?
Aye.
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 You have your special exception.
Thank you.
Okay, second item tonight. Newmarket Zoning Board of Adjustment will hold a public hearing for an application from Newmarket Plains LLC on behalf of Lori A. Dion Revocable Trust for a special exception pursuant to Newmarket Town Code, Section 32-5 2A, nonconformity, to permit a horizontal expansion of a non-conforming structure located on real property at an address of 23 Exeter Road, tax map U3, lot 35, in the M2 zone. So this was brought to us before and the application was withdrawn.
Correct.
So,
So
does any,
they can proceed.
have at it. Thanks for being patient with us. You'll get it right sometime.
Good evening, my name is John Wiswell. I've been working with Paul. I'm the general contractor for Lori Dion, who's the owner at 23 Exeter Street. The structure in question is a barn that is attached to the property, and I think that there's probably a little bit of a misunderstanding about the property itself. We have actually not expanded the property. We've kept it the same footprint that it is right now. I think there was a deck on the back of it that made it an expansion property. But one of the things that we wanted to do after the last hearing was actually move the building a little bit different. Right now, it's 3 feet from the property line of the neighbor to the south of 23 Exeter Street. And we'd like to move that more towards 23 Exeter Street, the house proper, and make it 5-foot setback off the property line. And then the other thing we'd like to do is move it 6 feet backwards away from Exeter Street. Maybe it gives it a little bit better feel for the house next door. So we're not expanding the barn as it is right now. We're just going to move it back, that's all. Make it more conforming to what it should be, and then build the same exact thing that was there before without it being built any differently.
So you're trying to make our job easier, huh?
Yeah, well, I think that was the goal of it. One of my friends, Ron Lemieux, who worked tirelessly with the Newmarket Historical Society, found some interesting information about it, and the building was actually done in 1876. And for some reason, they just kept fixing it, repairing it, and finally what happened is the hill behind it has pushed it forward, and that's because they built it on a retaining wall that's there. So what our engineers have done is actually built a foundation to be the retaining wall for the new structure to hold the hill back. Because I think you guys are all well aware there's some other buildings just above that as well. So it's incumbent that that wall get replaced and able to not only handle the structure, but handle the wall itself. So again, we're going to move it to the north 2 feet, and we're going to move it back 6 feet from Exeter Street. And I think Paul set up the picture right there, and you can see it where the blue is actually, where we moved it over, where it is now, where we're moving it.
Yeah, so is there, I'm looking at the renderings, so there's actually going to be a breezeway connecting the two at some point? That's not part of this, I'm just getting oriented.
There was one that was in the plan and in the works for it. He has to tie the two buildings together.
Okay. So to summarize, we're moving the building slightly away from the property line, and we're moving it back slightly
6 feet, yes.
and making it less non-conforming.
Yes. If it was less than 5 feet, then the wall that faced the neighbor's property had to be a firewall, and it couldn't have any glass in it. But in light of that, it doesn't matter. It's just better that it's moved a little bit more away from the neighbor's property and more towards 23 Exeter Street, the house itself.
Is the neighbor here today, or?
I just have two questions on it.
Can you state your name for the record too, please?
Janelle Zarba, I'm at 25 Exeter Road. My two questions for the application is just, you're saying it's 5 feet from the property line, but the plans say 3'7", so I just want it clarified.
Clarify that.
Yeah,
Right now, it's 16 inches from the, it's 18 inches from the property line. We're moving it over 2 feet, so it's going to be 3.7 feet off the property line. But the 5 feet is going to be the distance between the buildings itself where the fire code comes into play. The building, our
Well,
building,
sorry.
Okay.
okay, that's the first question.
Yeah.
Do you have,
Well, I mean, my comment is just that applies not between buildings, but from property lines, so.
It's between buildings.
And then, so, the rock wall that's between our properties, so the rock wall is in benefit of the barn, so I just wanna know what's being done with that.
Well, the rock wall is going to be a foundation.
No, so the one, I'm just concerned that, like, because the wall runs parallel to the barn and then 90s into the back of the barn. So what, like, are you taking, because if you're moving that back, then you have to take out that back wall. So how are you addressing how these two walls tie in?
Well, when we're putting the foundation in where the building's going to go, and the rock wall will either tie into the foundation or...
So, can I just ask that everybody address
The
the
board.
board and not each other? Thank you.
Alright. So, I mean, my two concerns, one, I'm pretty confident on the zoning, it's from property lines, nobody cares about between buildings, it's from your property line. That's irrelevant, I'm happy it's moving away from the property line, my concern was the fire conditions there. And I appreciate moving back away from that window. I still have concerns about the wall, because that is integral to their building currently, and it's for their benefit of their building, but it's been built on my property. So it opens up the can of worms dealing with that.
how, is the wall on your property, is that what you're saying?
So the wall, their building right here, it comes off the back and then comes down between our buildings. So it starts on their property, crosses onto mine, and kind of like toes the line between the two property lines. And that was part of asking last time for them to put the wall on the plans, because it's we could run a line between the two property lines, but that wall is right between the two, so. And my concern is that when they demo this building, and they demo the back to move the building back and do the new foundation, if that's getting disturbed, what are the implications there? Am I now fixing the wall, are they fixing the wall, that type of thing? So that, I just wanted clarification on.
I think we'd be more than happy to accommodate the fine tuning of any wall and the placement of the foundation. I understand what you're saying, and I think that those things have to be, I think we can work together as do, but in any event, we can only really do what we can do with our foundation. I mean, that's really what we're trying to address with the property, and our foundation will be more on our property now, so I think if we put that foundation in and work with the neighbor and try to put the rocks back where they were to preserve whatever she had back there with them, then we'll do that. Now, the house itself is built right into the rock wall, and that is on that property on 23 Exeter Road.
So what I'm hearing right now is that you've got some concerns about the distance between the buildings for the fire code.
Well, I was curious, so when, sorry, I didn't catch
John.
John, when he first presented it, he's talking about 5 feet.
Excuse me, could you speak it to us so I could hear you better?
Sorry,
It's all right.
I just wanted clarification.
All right, thank you.
He
Yeah.
said 5 feet, so non-conforming property line, it said 3'7", so I just wanted clarification on that.
Yeah, I misspoke, I meant between the building and the property line. We moved the buildings apart from me to alleviate that. Again, to just make a little bit more distance between the properties. There had been an issue in the past where snow slid off the roof. That's not gonna be an issue this time because we're gonna put asphalt shingles on and not metal. But the reality is having that building move 2 feet north really does help a lot with the adjoining properties.
And, I mean, regardless of a dimensional requirement in the code where they're using an existing building and they're moving it, making it less non-conforming, it becomes a moot point. It could be 15 feet, but they're replacing an existing, they're just moving an existing structure.
And making it less
Correct.
non-conforming.
So the actual distance between the buildings doesn't necessarily impact this board. If you were taking it down and starting over again, whole
We might
different,
as well move it back.
Correct. That's my understanding of the way this works. So,
It is coming down now.
I don't know, is it coming
The
down?
whole
You-
thing's coming
Yeah,
down.
the
whole
motion is-
structure
But it's on,
foundation.
it's on the same footprint.
No.
So, just to recap, so what they're doing is they're taking the current building that's there,
Yeah.
they're gonna demolish it. But the dimensions of the footprint
Okay,
of that building is what's getting shifted.
okay,
So, it's still the same footprint, it's just, it's moving its location
To a less
to a
non-conforming
less
spot.
non-conforming spot.
Right, I get that.
We're
Okay.
also, we're not doing a vertical expansion on it. It's not going to be any higher than the existing.
okay. Does anybody else in the public have any comments for us? Does anybody on the board have any discussion on this?
I think the question that should be asked is this something that should even be reviewed by ZBA?
Dave, I'm sorry, I can't quite hear
The
you.
question that I think should be asked is this something that should even be reviewed by the ZBA?
Well, why is it here?
Well, it was already on the docket to begin with, based off of the premise that it was an expansion of the footprint. And I just learned about it this afternoon, that it was not an actual expansion. They were shifting, so they weren't actually expanding the footprint. So,
The square footage remains the same, the position is slightly different, and it's less non-conforming, so.
So
if
this
we-
is by right?
This is what?
This is by right, this construction?
yes. But they are shifting the location of that non-conforming,
Right.
right? They're shifting that whole non-conforming back 6 feet, but they're not expanding it.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is this something that ZBA should even look at? Or because it's changed its location, that it is something to look at?
Well, I think it should be something that's looked at. I don't have a problem with it, but if you're moving the location of a building and you're on a non-conforming lot, it should be looked at.
That's what we're here for.
Right.
But the fact it's less
But it's-
That's
non-conforming
less non-conforming.
would be
Would be the,
Plus,
a plus.
yeah.
Right.
But from what I'm hearing from you though, is it should still be something that's
well,
looked
yeah.
at.
Oh, yeah.
because it used to be here, now you're moving it
Yeah.
over here.
Mhm.
So, yeah, we should
Okay,
Yeah.
look at it. I don't think that was a problem.
okay.
Are we in discussion now, Bob?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not, I'm trying to think about the wall situation. I'm not really sure how that enters into it, though, at least in my consideration.
Is the wall part of the building now? Is that, it was built on the wall?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, that's correct. They actually built the
So I
second
see
floor
where you're
joist
coming-
onto that wall.
So you may damage the wall. when you,
Well, it's already been damaged because it's pushed forward over the years.
Okay.
but you're willing to restore the wall.
Excuse me, which wall are we talking about?
It's the back wall.
The
It's
back wall.
it's the very
It's
back
not the
wall.
property line wall.
It's the wall that
Oh.
actually retains the hill, and they use that same retaining wall as
Okay.
the placement for the floor joist on the second floor.
But it's on your property.
It is on, as it is on.
So the
our
one I'm
property.
trying to understand from her is this wall that's running ziggity-zag down the property line. I'm trying to understand why that should be a consideration on our part.
Just the only, because the wall is an L, and it's an old granite block wall,
Yep.
so that it ties together. So if you're removing this one, it's potentially affecting the one next to it. So that's why, so we, like.
In the back?
Yeah, in the back, because it's like, it's an L, it comes off the
They're
building.
keyed in.
Yeah,
Like it could be load bearing.
so
Well,
if
it's not
if
gonna
you're
be on it.
demoing that wall, you know, because the building's moving back into it, and you have to demo that wall to do a new foundation, and potentially it's disturbing the other one, because they're all interlocked.
Yep.
So, and,
I'm getting it,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes and no, to some degree. I've done this before. There are ways to like leave that wall that she has there and even repair some of it that is on her property, but I don't think it's gonna impact it that much. Our wall is gonna be set back and that other wall is gonna die into our concrete wall. So,
What's the separation between your foundation and that wall?
what's the separation? Well, right now, it's kind of hidden by a lot. There is a turn, but it's more on her property. So I don't think it's gonna affect that as much as she thinks it may, it absolutely may. But the reality is, I think as we're doing that work, we're able to put back what we need to give the integrity to both sides. I don't think that's anybody's best interest not to be able to do that. And I think that is a site issue when we come down to it with Dave and when we start doing it. But I don't think it impacts what we're trying to do by moving our property back. The hill, the actual retaining wall that's there now is coming down already. So it needs to be dealt with at some level. It holds the big parking lot up above it. So
Is it possible to key that, some of that stone wall into the new concrete
it
foundation?
may, yes, it very well may
And that way
be.
it anchors everything in place?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's incumbent on having a great relationship with the neighbor to be able to make sure, because again, both the properties are very close together. You guys know that street very well. A lot of those properties are very close together. And there is quite a bit of water that runs down that hill.
That's the reason they call it
all
the
way
bowl.
down, up and down, so we want to make sure that we're able to mitigate that in a correct fashion for everybody. But we thought it would, in the best interest of both people, to actually move that structure back 6 feet. And we could build it right where it is now if we wanted to. I mean, basically, we just move it over 2 feet and leave the old wall there. But I don't think it helps either of us in the long run as we're doing that.
Right.
Okay, no more comment from the public, I guess? Fine. Discussion on the board side of things?
When they came, my impression is when they came last time, and I may be misunderstanding it, but they were considering bringing it forward,
Correct.
and we said, why can't you push it back? And they've done that, my understanding. The concern on the abutter was the proximity to the house, and they've improved that.
The snow shed off the roof?
Yeah. And they've improved that. The issue with the wall, can we make it a condition of the approval that the wall that is there be maintained? I mean, it sounds like they're gonna do it anyway, and that would,
Yeah, but you can definitely attach any conditions
I
that you feel is necessary.
I might recommend that.
Isn't there a statute in the state you can't dismantle stone walls, or is that
Oh, I don't know that.
Property,
Property line.
property?
property lines, you can do it within a
Okay.
containment of a piece.
Yep.
Mhm.
you can remove a wall.
and on a scenic byway.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Those are my thoughts.
I agree with you. Attach something
A condition.
to, a condition to, that Dave has to look at that and make sure everybody's happy. And that would be good.
All right. Is there any more discussion? We'll entertain a motion. James, you look ready?
Chair, this is the right one. So I'm going to move to approve an application from Newmarket Plains LLC on behalf of Laurie A. Dion Revocable Trust for a special exception pursuant to Newmarket Town Code Section 32-5-2A, nonconformity to permit a horizontal expansion of a nonconforming structure located on real property with an address of 23 Exeter Road, tax map U3, lot 35, in the M2 zone, as the application satisfies the enumerated standards pursuant to Section 32-52A of the Municipal Code of the Town of Newmarket, New Hampshire, with the condition that the wall is
Substantially
substantially
maintained.
maintained through the construction and process.
Is that acceptable? Is that acceptable?
Good.
Second.
We have a second. We have motion second. All those in favor? Henry?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
That was fair.
Huh?
That was fair.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
And I
what
think
was
they,
thinking.
yeah,
That's fine.
and I get both.
Huh?
I get both your point of views. Yeah.
We're going to take a quick recess while our board reconstitutes itself.
Or unconstituted.
Unconstitutes itself, whatever. There, we're back. After a quick commercial break. The Newmarket Zoning Board of Adjustment will hold a public hearing for an application from Bradley Churth seeking a variance from the Newmarket Town Code, Section 32-89, Dimensions Table, to permit the installation of a heating, cooling condenser and liquid propane tank within 10 feet of the property line setback for real property located at 9 Creighton Street, tax map U3, lot 16, in the R4 zone.
Good evening. I'm Bradley Kurth. I am the owner of 9 Creighton Street. Thanks for taking the time tonight. First off, I'd just like to take ownership of the fact I'm here tonight requesting a variance after this equipment has been installed. Here to accept the result of this decision, but I would like to express that I never had any malintent to sidestep this process and any requirements for this project. I did not perform this work. I hired an HVAC company to perform this installation, and as they stated in their contract, to do so professionally by properly acquiring all the permitting needed to meet local jurisdiction. As I stated in my application, the project did not go as planned, and I'm here tonight to gladly answer questions or clarify any details of this project thus far. As a builder, I've truly learned to value the purpose of building codes, the requirements, and the function they serve as the primary driver to provide safe buildings and reliable buildings. I've submitted successfully and closed all of my own permits, meeting all codes as required. One example relevant tonight is the second violation seen on the letter from which I received from the town that I included in my application. I detected high levels of radon this past December in my house and immediately took action, having concerns from my wife, my son, and myself. I read the required codes and installed a highly effective radon mitigation system. And it was brought to the town's concerns by my neighbor while I was working on installing the system, which was indeed incomplete at that time. And not to code at that point. I was not finished of the installation, and I informed my neighbor a few times of my progress as I understood the concerns of radon discharge near his deck, and I wanted to ensure his concerns were addressed. I followed through on my word, and I completely installed the system as a priority throughout the winter to remove any exposure concerns ahead of the approaching warm weather. As I had empathy for his safety similar to mine. As requested by the town, I brought in a certified radon specialist to address this violation, and the specialist quickly signed off on my installation as he was impressed of how well I reduced the radon levels in my house, and just for the record, that violation has been remedied. Additionally, this occurrence here tonight, this violation has brought to light another issue, separate from the HVAC contracted work I contracted with. My propane tank is now in question as well. It was relocated to this location in 2020, again, as I was concerned with building safety codes. And I identified the previous location was in a safety violation placed immediately in front of a window. And that's the first photo you can see here tonight. It was a Google image that I pulled, stated 2012. It's kind of hard to see. My printer didn't do so well, but you can see the yellow window frame in front of that tank. This can be used as an example that oversight can occur at any point, as I purchased this home with this violation, and it was not identified even in my home inspection report. And in a similar oversight, the 10-foot setback ordinance was overlooked as I relocated this tank under an approved permit with the town. And that permit was closed out and completed. I since had a new propane tank installed with a new propane company, and that is a direct replacement of that propane tank. And for the record, they did apply for a permit. Following That project in 2020, I applied for another permit in 2021 to build a deck and associated staircase. This permit did flag a setback ordinance, and I appropriately applied for the variance as required. The significant difference in our discussion tonight regarding the installation of this heating system is that I did not perform this work. I hired a licensed HVAC company for this work, as I am not an HVAC tradesman. Skip the part. I think I shall go on. I put a large onus on the professional HVAC company to do so in compliance, as they assured me they would do. I was informed many times this project was on track, and I scheduled one last final pre-installation meeting with the sales project manager to ensure the plan was in place, and again, it was assured. I sincerely tried to have this project completed per code and in compliance, as it's a critical house utility system. The main driver of all these challenges that we're discussing tonight, which is particularly unique, I think, to the 4 homes on Creighton Street, which is a satellite picture I included here. You can see the 4 adjacent homes wedged between the 2 roads, is the lot sizes of our properties. The actual size of my property is measured in square feet, not acreage. It's 3,484 square feet, or 0.07 acres, similar to the size of many modern homes. On top of this, there's 2 public roads that encroach on the front and rear of my property, of all of our properties on that road. I did not address my neighbor's concerns in my application, as I focused on the criterion information required by the variance. But since my submittal, my neighbor has provided a statement that I would like to address at this point. As noted in the addendum provided by my neighbor, I'm a proficient commercial builder and a carpenter by trade, but I'm a much less experienced residential builder and no prior experience as a homeowner. This is my first home, and I've learned a great deal as my first homeowner in the past 5 years, particularly in zoning regulations. And contrary to the statement made in the addendum, I am genuine in my intent to build the safest home for my family and the community here in Newmarket. I'm simply trying to do the best thing for my home and my family. I fully understand my neighbor's concern about the noise that this heat pump has generated as well. I spoke with him about this after this equipment was installed, and we discussed the path forward and some solutions. The first step was to reach out to my HVAC company to ensure the unit was properly running as intended, which it is. The company provided information about the unit at that time, and for the record, as I provided here on one of the next pages, the highest decimal rating is 71.5 decibels for this unit. And for comparison, for what I looked up, it's similar to a vacuum cleaner on decibel rating charts. But most of the time, this chart demonstrates a decibel rating in the mid-60s, which is similar to background music or normal conversation or dishwashers. You can see that in the information provided. There are many other points and contradictions I would like to make about that statement, about the home he built and how it correlates to my location, but I don't think it'll be constructive in this meeting, so I'm just going to try to only correct 4 points. So please keep these 4 facts in mind tonight. The first point being the timeline is not accurate in the statement provided by my neighbor. I only began this HVAC install in mid-October, not during the summer, as a promotion incentivized my purchase, and I signed a contract with this HVAC contractor quickly. We began planning in late October, and the install was scheduled for December. The project took a turn for the worse. It did not go as planned, and I became increasingly concerned given the need for heating and began to press my company for a resolution, I became equally concerned about the permit and asked for a confirmation. I was sent an email from the town notifying of a permit issued on January 17th, but I believe this occurred after the fact of the work that commenced. And I believe this possibly would be the root cause that led to the setback requirement not being identified before the system was installed, and thus this variance coming after the fact. The system sat partially uninstalled.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please? That
Yeah.
last,
Yeah, sure. When the project did not go as planned, I became concerned with the heat from my home. You know, they kind of stumbled through the process. So I pushed for resolutions and different options and locations to install this unit. So as I was pressing for that, I started to see the oversight of this company, and I began pressing for a confirmation of the permit. Soon after, I received a notice from Dave on January 17th, after the work had begun.
so you didn't receive a copy of the permit prior to the work being done? Gotcha.
But I was assured it was multiple times. The system sat partially installed with limited heat in my home until February, until I could get them back to my house to resolve and can carry on with the installation. In particularly providing a sustainable heat source for the remaining of the winter, which was a far from ideal solution for my family. That was the first point. Sorry, long-winded. Second point, the condenser is safe, as it is marked as an Intertech ELT listed product that meets all modern fire and safety standards. And I provided that info in here as well, similar to a UL listing. Presumably it would be as equally as safe as the heat pumps installed on both of my neighbors, my budding properties, on 5-7 Creighton Street and on 11 Creighton Street. If the point of being a fire hazard was valid, the recommended location provided by my neighbor is not valid in my opinion. By placing this condenser under my deck, that would not be a safe or wise solution if it was a fire hazard. Third point, the propane tank was placed in its current location because it is the only legal location on my property that can be placely safed regarding National Fire Protection Agency setbacks. It's indicated in a statement that there are other options, but I do not believe that's the case. The area that he does propose on my property primarily serves as an electrical connection point for a backup generator during emergencies. And this propane tank cannot be set within 10 feet of this receptacle or a few other receptacles under my deck or switches per the NFPA. And I did confirm this a few times with my propane provider as a subject matter expert, as I also consider that location as a solution in this scenario. The fourth point, in the statement provided by my neighbor, multiple times it points to the values of setback ordinances, emphasizing to prevent overcrowding. However, in the addendum, it states they built their home on 100% of their property that has minimal setbacks on 3 sides, which has resulted in a concrete foundation wall 1 feet away from my property line and approximately 5 feet from their neighboring, the other abutter on the other side of their property. Given they suffer the same challenges on such a small property, they chose to seek a similar natured variance in 2017 that objectively crowded the rest of the 4 homes on our street with minimal consideration for a buffer to the abutters' property lines. In a striking result on their property is that their heat pump is in the exact location that I'm proposing respective to their property, near their neighbor, their other abutters' properties, house and their bedroom. That is equal in relation to my other abutter who placed another heat pump in a similar location on their property. The difference being on the 9 Creighton Street property is the heat pump was placed within setback boundaries, as that property is significantly larger than our respective properties. And I added a few photos for that one as well. So, in summary, I think heat pumps and of course propane tanks, given there's no natural gas in Newmarket, are everywhere in our congested neighborhood. I feel these features will be the same for my home, no matter where they're placed. And it's simply just the characteristic of our neighborhood and the town that we live in here, given the existing conditions. So again, thank you for your time and consideration, and glad to answer any questions.
Henry,
Mr. Kurth, in the past, you wanted to make a change and you came to the town and decided that that was not in conformity with the ordinance, so you asked for a variance, and you were granted that. And this time you ignored that. I wonder why.
I didn't ignore it. I didn't think it was a requirement.
Did you come to the town to ask if you needed a variance?
Yeah, no, I understand that opinion on that point. But no, I didn't consider it. I asked my HVAC contractor. Like I said, I learned a lot in the past couple of years, but I did not think it was required.
What does your contractor know about Newmarket town ordinances?
I don't know.
All right.
in the grand scheme of construction, it's not uncommon for a specialty subcontractor to gather their own permits. That was up to them to go in and research that a little bit.
Okay.
It's not that uncommon. Right, Al?
I had a question. You indicated, I believe, that there was no other place for the propane to go,
Correct.
period.
Correct.
And why is that?
I tried to explain that in the variance, and I provided maybe a plan of my house, but there's conflict in per NFPA fire codes. It's a DOT tank. It's not a
Right.
ASME tank, so it
Right.
actually has even less restraints. But in discussions with my propane provider and in consulting with a few others, it needs to be 3 feet away from doors and windows, which I
Yeah.
cannot fulfill. It needs to be 10 feet away from electrical ignition sources, which is a receptacle or a switch, which I cannot fulfill. Or the front of my house is on a street, and it needs to be 5 feet away from that. So I have no, from my understanding, from looking at the codes and requirements, I have no place to place it, other than where it is.
So you talked earlier about putting it under the deck, and the problem there is what?
A few electrical receptacles, mainly my generator, backup emergency generator connection point, but also just a couple various receptacles that are
Is
existing there.
it both or one?
There's 2 in one similar location, and then there's another one that prevents it in a different location.
You seem to know the rules on the propane tank. Can you bury a tank there?
You can see a photo in my...
Can you bury a tank anywhere on your property?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I did ask that question to my propane company, but I think they ruled it out pretty quickly, and I didn't consider it much more after
Why?
that. You can see in some photos provided in my application, and my lot is just so small. It's between my house. I literally only have one strip of property, grass and dirt. Everything else is a driveway or a road.
Or the deck?
Excuse me?
You could do it under the deck?
I don't know. I don't know if I could do it on the deck. I have a sewer
don't
line
know
that runs
either.
through there.
It's just one of the, I mean, one of the, I mean, I appreciate your perspective on it. And if in fact, by code or by whatever, you can't put it any other place, that makes a difference. But if in fact you can, and you just don't want to for whatever reason, I just haven't seen the information that convinces me that it can't go someplace else.
Okay. Yeah, I try to portray that in my application. I provided a plan.
No, I saw that, yeah. I don't know,
I know you can relocate the other unit.
HVAC.
The
Yeah,
condenser, yeah, it's much less restrictions there.
yeah, you can locate that
Yeah.
You can do-
under
yeah.
Air windows or whatever
Yeah.
it may be.
under the deck where you have plenty of room. I just question the propane.
Me too.
Yeah, that's kind of what this process is.
Now,
brought
the
to
other
light.
thing is can you dig a hole there?
That's the other question.
Yeah.
Physically dig a hole. There's a lot of ledge up in there, rock and ledge, so can you do that? So that might be
Yeah, I could inquire with my
something.
company, but
Well, that would be something that would prohibit it, putting it under the deck, but
Yeah.
you do have the deck option that you can look at.
yeah, I do have a sewer line running in that vicinity.
Well, that wouldn't bother your propane.
If it was buried, it might.
Well, if it-
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, sure.
Yeah,
Go through the middle of the
discussing it
tank.
buried.
I've seen weirder.
I've done with it.
I think all we're getting at is there are other options that can be explored.
Are you the abutters, the neighbors? Would you care to say something?
Yeah, I have a statement. This is
Boy, okay.
yeah, sure,
As long as he keeps it filed, we're okay.
I abbreviated it.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Is this the one I've got?
Similarly.
We're sharers.
I gotta share with you.
All right, so I'm just going to read this, otherwise I'll mess it up.
Sir, would you please speak up?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so in 2017, we purchased and then demolished an old duplex, formerly 57 Creighton Street. We built a custom home on its footprint. We moved into our new home in June 2018. We live in the upper 2 floors with the physical address of 5 Creighton. We have a tenant living in a 1-bedroom accessory unit on the ground floor with the physical address of 7 Creighton Street. The unit has a private entrance and is on separate electric service. Our home takes up nearly 100% of our lot. We followed all town ordinances during construction, seeking both special exceptions and a variance, so I'm familiar with this process. Mr. Bradley Kurth purchased the abutting property at 9 Creighton Street in 2019 and has been improving the property ever since. We've had friendly, neighborly relations for nearly 5 years, so it's awkward for me to have to broach our concerns about the variance he is now seeking tonight. I refer you to photo 1 in my statement. In February of this year, Mr. Kurth installed a heat pump, condenser, and a new propane tank and platform in the 7-foot 6-inch space between our homes on the west side of his property. The propane tank platform is 4 feet from our property line. The condenser is 2.5 feet from our property line. The condenser is 3 feet 7 inches from the wall of our home. Our property boundary is clearly discernible in that space. On page 5 of my statement, I've provided a copy of a property survey by Norway Plains of Rochester. Last August, Norway Plains installed highly visible markers making it obvious where the property line is located. The markers provide a point of reference for the location of any structure into the space between our homes. For both structures installed by Mr. Kurth, the 10-foot setback is required. He's now seeking a variance for 2 structures after the fact of installing them this past February. Mr. Kurth chose to install a new propane tank platform condenser in the area between our homes without first seeking town approval of a setback variance. Now he's seeking a variance after being compelled by a letter of violation from code enforcement written on March 28th of this year. We fully support Mr. Kurth's or anyone's right to have a vision for what they want to do with their property and to seek relief from ordinances. We had to do it for our own home. We're fine with this as long as it doesn't negatively affect others. However, we don't think the ZBA should approve this variance because of its real and potential negative impact on others. So first, we believe granting the variance will be contrary to the public interest. So the setback ordinance is in place in part to prevent overcrowding, provide light and air, emergency service access, and so on. Setbacks can also serve as a noise buffer between neighbors. This area is dense with structures, and both our property and Mr. Kurth's are already non-conforming. The tank and platform and the condenser introduce 2 additional non-conforming structures onto his property. I refer you to photo 2 in my statement for a visual. The condenser sits 3 feet 7 inches from the exterior walls of where people in 2 households sleep. It turns on and off intermittently. It emits a loud noise when it turns on and off that can be heard from the street. It makes a constant noise when running that's amplified by the walls of our homes that's disrupted our sleep since February 9th. I have included in my statement a link to the YouTube video that shows how loud it is. The video was taken from our bedroom window. So Mr. Kurth has introduced a nuisance noise source into the small space between our homes where before there was silence. The condenser is also an ignition source, and although its proximity to the propane tank may be per code, it does not mean it doesn't present at least some new risk of fire where there was none before. Introducing a new risk of fire in a congested area like this would seem to be contrary to the public interest. In case law around variance criterion number 1, courts have examined if granting the variance would threaten health, safety, welfare of the public. For the reasons I've just stated, we think that granting the variance would be a threat. There's a close and too close, and his structures are too close to our home. Approving this variance would seem to set the stage for others who wish to build in a similar fashion. Approving this variance would send the wrong message to the public, and this may have negative implications for the members of the public in similar situations. So 2, granting this variance, we believe the spirit of the ordinance will not be observed. As noted before, the setback ordinance is in place in part to prevent overcrowding, provide light, air, emergency service access, and so on. Granting a variance would allow for the introduction of 2 additional structures into the narrow space between our homes that serves as a buffer between our homes. These structures add clutter and noise to one of the few open spaces between the 4 houses that are visible from Creighton Street and Shonda Park. The large white propane tank that now sits 4 feet from us is neither discreet nor attractive, and we think alters the essential character of the neighborhood facing Shonda Park. Mr. Kurth has argued that because a 10-foot setback ordinance was not in place at the time that his house was built many years ago, the current ordinance should not restrict his actions in the present day. I disagree. Allowing for some open space between properties serves an important purpose now that perhaps was not considered or needed in the past. Making this area more congested now would be inconsistent with the spirit of the ordinance. If the spirit of the ordinance includes allowing for, by law, some minimum buffer between homes, then granting the variance would be inconsistent with this spirit. And then 3, in granting this variance, we believe substantial justice will not be done. I refer to Malachi versus Town of Chester. The New Hampshire Supreme Court has given this guiding rule that any loss to an individual that is not outweighed by a gain to the general public is an injustice. So I believe that the general public stands to gain by not approving the variance because it upholds an ordinance that is in place that serves the public interest in our neighborhood and beyond. Allowing one person to install a noise-making mechanism within setbacks 3 feet 7 inches from where people in 2 households sleep opens the door to others doing the same. The potential public gain outweighs any loss incurred by Mr. Kurth, who arguably should have been aware of the potential consequences of his actions, which includes any inconvenience and expense having to relocate the offending structures. Any loss incurred now by Mr. Kurth would seem to stem from his own actions and inactions, not the town's. Anyone who builds without seeking proper approvals first does so at the risk of incurring the expense of having to tear down what they've built. 4, in granting this variance, we believe that the values of surrounding properties will be diminished. On the face of it, permitting the propane tank and platform and the condenser to remain may impact sales price and marketability of our property due to noise, congestion, and increased fire risk. As mentioned previously, the big white propane tank is neither discreet nor attractive. The gas provider has no easy access to fill it and will have to climb up and over a stone wall or come across our property, which is they already have, and we'd prefer that they did not. Additionally, since the condenser is an ignition source and makes noise, this may impact the marketability of our house and apartment. And now that the details of all this are part of the public record, that may become a leverage point or point of departure for a potential buyer who's done their diligence. We were forced to file a complaint about a neighbor due to his actions that never looks good to prospective buyers in a tight community. 5, we don't believe there is an unnecessary hardship. 1, we think there's a fair and substantial relationship between the ordinance and application of the ordinance to 9 Creighton. Given that there's only 7 feet 6 inches between our homes, the current ordinance should be left intact so it can serve its general purpose. The structures Mr. Kurth has placed in that narrow space should not be allowed to be there. They present noise, clutter, and fire risk. They're too close to our home. 2, the proposed use by Mr. Kurth is unreasonable owing to the cramped conditions, nuisance, noise, and fire safety issues they present where none had existed before. The area on the east side of his house would appear to be the most viable location for the tank and condenser without needing a variance. However, Mr. Kurth has chosen to use the available space on the east side of his home for other purposes. And then, as for Section B, there are no special conditions of 9 Creighton that distinguish it from others in the area. Although it would now be inconvenient for Mr. Kurth to relocate the offending structures into an area on the east side of his property, does not appear to be impossible. Mr. Kurth has the most space on the east side of his property. I refer you to photo 3 in my statement. Historically, the propane tank was located in a discrete location under his deck. With some foresight and planning, Mr. Kurth could have located it there or around there. However, he chose to make various improvements and to use that space for other things, such as the storage of his bikes. The condenser could have been located in that area too, perhaps under his deck, but Mr. Kurth chose to use that space for other things, such as a sitting area. Although he states in his application that there is no other viable location on his property for the 2 offending structures, with some modifications of his current use, the area on the east side of his house would appear to be a viable option for locating the tank and condenser legally without need of variance. Enforcement of the ordinance does not prevent reasonable use of his property, it just limits him from doing exactly what he wants in consideration of his close neighbors and the overall community. So that's my statement.
Thank you.
Okay.
What do you think, guys?
I have a question of Mr. Kurth, is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
all right, this is our discussion time, so
Okay,
ask away.
I think I know the answer based on his presentation, but just to be sure that I'm correct, where was the propane tank prior to its current location?
He provided a photo and I provide a similar one. It was before I purchased the house, it was under the deck in that corner.
Okay.
And that's when I identified that hazard. And working with the town of Newmarket, I placed it over where it sits now in 2020, and everything was approved.
Well, you say it was a hazard, based on what?
Being installed in front of that window. It's hard to see in the
No,
first
no, no,
photo.
I got it. I understand the condenser issue. I wouldn't want it where, under my deck either.
So,
Two of the other condensers are the slim line, they're mounted on the side of the building, so.
Right.
I mean, this condenser, when you put that in there, requires, other than the condenser, requires 3 feet all the way around it.
Right.
So that's a fairly big footprint.
I'm not sure I understand your point. So the condenser could go under the deck?
I would think so, or there's alternatives to that
Right, but-
condenser.
Right, so that one I'm pretty comfortable with. Again, I'm gonna go back to what I said before. If in fact there is no place where the propane tank can legally, safely go, except where it is, which is what you've presented, then I'm open to understanding that. And I'm not a propane expert, so I don't know. But if in fact there is another place the propane tank could go, I have a different point of view.
so Mr. Kurth, it sounds like you would be open to working with either the propane company or somebody who knows a whole lot more than us or anybody in this room probably of where, or if there are other opportunities to place the propane tank. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
I worked with my company. I explained my location.
Yep.
I did briefly ask about burial tanks, and we didn't think it was feasible, and we moved on from that.
Okay.
But I can explore that option again. But
Okay.
That-
From-
I think that'd be really helpful.
So in that case, I think it would be prudent if we make a motion for a continuance and then give him ample time to do whatever research is necessary to come to a conclusion and then provide documentation from whomever you speak with so that we can enter.
The propane tank.
Correct, yeah. So that we can enter it in the record, that's part of the record, and then we go from there. That's my personal opinion.
I agree. I think the HVAC is, I guess I shouldn't speak so strongly, but I think it makes sense to move it.
Makes sense to what?
To move it.
Oh, there are, like I
Yeah.
said, there are alternatives to the
Yeah.
pedestal mounted.
Yeah.
And I get it.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm not allowed to talk.
Yes, you are.
Oh. By saying that there are other alternatives, you're saying in between our two houses, there are other alternatives?
No,
No, we're not, no.
no,
Other alternatives
The-
outside of that
The
realm?
the pedestal mounted condenser is
Yeah.
one style. There are some that are mounted on the side of the building, they're slimline, they've
Right.
got a different configuration.
Right.
I'm not saying it's gonna go one place or another, but I'm saying there are alternatives to that.
Oh, right. But not in between our houses, is what my concern is that I don't want this condenser replaced with another type of condenser, which is just going nowhere. Because we're literally this close, our houses are this close. And I can tell you that if you'd like to hear what the sound is like, I would like to see what the sound is like. And this is with the window closed, which is right by our bedrooms, both of us, our tenant and us. Window closed, our bedroom. I can't crack the window, I can't do anything. Window closed.
I would think if we're gonna grant a continuance, it'd be worthwhile taking a walk down there and taking a look at it too.
We could do that.
Because no matter what we're gonna do, we're gonna upset somebody.
sorry, that this company, the HVAC company, I talked to 5 other HVAC companies, and they said, there is no way that we would install something without checking the codes in the town where they are going
There you
to
go.
install, period. So why they did this, and I called this company, and they got all excited, and talk to the owner of the house. I'm like, why do I need to talk to the owner of the house? You installed it. Why wouldn't you know where the code information is? If you're worth your weight, and for that matter, I know that you're a builder, why wouldn't you find out where the rules are? If you've got all the rules. Everyone knows
Please-
what the rules are.
Please address the board.
Oh,
Do
I'm
not
sorry,
address-
I'm sorry. So my thought is, if Mr. Kurth is a builder, then why wouldn't he know how to check? You've already made a variance he already made a variance for something else. Why wouldn't he look at the variance for doing this project?
I can tell you as a builder, it happens all the time.
Okay,
It happens all the time.
okay.
We think we know, and there are so many rules, so many regulations, and we often depend on our subs
Yeah,
and their advice, and I've been doing it way too long. But I think your suggestion, Mr. Chair, is a good one, that we go,
That way we can just walk around and
Yep.
brainstorm it, so. How much of a continuance do we want to give? We should give it to a date specific, if possible, so we don't have to
So how much time do you think that you need in order to do enough research that you feel confident that you can present it to the board?
As far as the other,
The
Propane.
the propane tank options,
yeah.
I would reach out to my company immediately. I just signed a contract with them, so somewhat in bed with them.
And you should also talk to your HVAC installer, find out what options you've got there.
Sure, I have. Everything's kind of on hold for the
Sure.
moment, pending this
Sure.
discussion.
Right.
But yeah, I'd gladly to work
So
on a solution.
next
You think you
next
have-
no,
Week and
next week we got a training coming
Oh,
up.
wait, hold
We do
on,
have a
sorry.
training at 7 next week.
So if we do it in 2 weeks,
2 weeks?
I think 2 weeks is ample time for me to
You
research the
think you have
pros.
services going in there,
Excuse me?
under the porch? Services going in, you think? You mentioned the sewer,
Oh, yeah, I have sewer lines because
and it goes out the back.
it goes out the back of, if
You
you're,
might want to have the town, go down to the town and have them identify that so you can,
I think the water's on top of the hill, but the sewer's down.
yeah, I think so too.
Memorial Day.
water's on top, sewer's down.
Memorial Day. Shoot,
Yep.
28th for Memorial
And
Day.
the sewer in
Or
there
27th.
is deep. I remember when they put it in.
We have training the 20th, and
Okay.
then Memorial Day the following week.
So Memorial Day weekend, that's a 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks would be June 3rd.
Yeah.
I'm not available that week of June 3rd.
Not
I
available.
prefer.
Then we just do the next meeting or what?
So do you want to do a site walk? And then continue, so there's 2 different things we can do. We can do a site walk, and we can also continue it. So we can continue to a date specific,
Correct,
and in an interim, we can schedule a site walk.
correct. And I think the site walk and the continuance can be separate items.
Correct, yeah, yeah. I'm just trying to figure out a next meeting time
Right.
right
Yeah,
now.
at the next meeting, yeah.
Because 2 weeks we got Memorial Day, then he's not available the week of June 3rd, right? So, and then, because next week we got training, so that's 3 weeks out.
So the urgency
4 weeks
is,
out, 4 weeks out, excuse me.
the urgency is discomfort on the part. Is that, can you live with it?
I haven't slept since February 19th, I think, so
You're holding up very well.
I see bags under my eyes.
I apologize.
So maybe the sidewalk should be as soon as possible.
I can just make a statement that the unit doesn't run that much currently,
Right.
the temperatures.
It's
It hasn't hardly
going to be
ran.
going. um,
Doesn't make it better.
Yeah. My point is, the critical thing is this propane. And if all of a sudden you come back and we find out it cannot be moved, that's a different story.
That's my understanding.
But if it can,
Can I make another statement? When you're ready?
Hmm?
Can I make another statement when you guys are ready?
sure.
Yeah, I do believe the company that I chose was chosen similarly by my neighbor. I think they used the same company when they built their house. And they placed, if you go for a site walk, just please observe the location of their heat pump within about the same dimensions of their neighbor's house that is next to their bedroom, the case that they're making here. And just observe
So
their
it's 3 feet away, is that?
No, absolutely not.
5 feet,
And
I would
it's-
estimate. I didn't go on their property, I didn't measure, but I just took a
Address
look.
us over here. We do.
May I say something?
Yes, please. State your name.
Mike Nagan. We built.
Can you come up to the microphone?
Yeah, sorry.
So when we built, we did everything according to the book. So if anybody wanted to complain, they had an opportunity.
Did you replace that house on foot, on the exact?
Exact footprint. The only difference was,
So this has been an existing 7.6 or whatever it is?
Right.
Yes.
when
yeah,
the old
same
building was
footprint.
there. Okay.
And the only thing that we got was a little bit more on the west side. We got like 1 foot. I think it was a special exception.
I know you came for something.
Yeah.
What by 2 feet?
And our condensers are on the side of the house, and they're positioned under the overhang of the house, so they're the way they're supposed to be. And we've never had a complaint. We're going on 5-6 years living there. Nobody's ever complained about any noise or anything like that. And you know, if we would have ran into that kind of issue in building, then we would have had to deal with that. It's like everybody else.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
So where are we at with this condenser? So do you have to do a walkthrough or a site walk?
Right now, the photos and everything, everybody's taking photos to their perspective.
Mhm.
What I want to do is get down there and take a look and get the general orientation in my mind so I can better visualize what's going on. So this is sidewalk is for me.
Okay.
And I'd like input from the HVAC contractor for why he took that specific location, and if he can point to elements of the code or elements of the, that say no other place works. Right now, I don't have that information.
You know, I guess I also wonder, it's like, okay, Dave Evans, are you the code enforcement?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so when somebody, like, do you have to go and inspect it afterwards, or ahead of time, or how does that work?
No, so applications come in. Generally, it's just a quick administrative approval.
For like, does HVAC put the permit in, and then what happens?
So, yeah, so typically for a mechanical permit, they'll submit their permit, they'll say what they're doing, they pay the permit fee, it gets approved, and then after it's installed, they go out and inspect it to make sure that it complies with all the codes.
Okay, so then in this case, it didn't comply with the codes.
I haven't inspected it yet.
Okay, so all this time it hasn't, how long does it usually take to get inspected?
So it's up to either the contractor or the homeowner to reach out for an inspection. If after 2 years that the permit's been out and it's not closed out due to inspections, then the permit expires.
Oh. So, okay.
And I understand that it was done during the winter, and certainly we don't want you guys to freeze over there. It's not our, desire to shut down your heat or anything like that. It's just that in this particular location, it's way too close. That's it.
It's a what?
It's just too close. It's too close.
And I will make a statement that when I addressed Mr. Kurth, he said, well, we'll all get used to it, the sound. We'll all get used to it. I'm not used to it. I have the pillow over my head and I can still hear it. So that's why I'm wondering how long will this go on, because then there's gonna be air conditioning and then, that's what I'm wondering.
So we've just got to come up with a,
So when do we do the sidewalk?
well,
That's not gonna slow us down.
the sidewalk we can do on a Saturday,
Right.
we can do that this weekend. I mean.
Right.
Uh,
It's the next
it's
meeting.
the reconvening the hearing with everything that's coming up.
So I was starting to ask, do we have to do the meeting on a Monday?
No, we don't.
Because next Monday, we do the training, then we got Memorial Day, then Mr. Chris is unavailable the week of the 3rd, so that puts us to the 10th.
Is there any,
We already have a meeting scheduled for the 10th, so.
so we can do
So
that.
the
Just-
question is, do we wait a month or do we do it a separate night?
That's up to the board. If there's nothing, if we've got a place to hold it, we can do a meeting at a different time. It's just, it's convenient to have it, well, this is a continuation anyway, so.
Right.
The aggrieved parties are here, they know where it is. It's quite up to what the board wants. I don't go anywhere, so I can do pretty much any time.
I can too.
I can too.
Do you want me to check the calendar to see when this Chambers is available?
Can you? Is that something you can do right now?
Again, I think the issue is making sure that the applicant has enough time to get the information.
Correct.
And it sounded like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, I
Okay,
could-
so 2 weeks, so we
One, I just don't want to overcommit.
And to
I
be,
could try for one, I just don't want to overcommit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I won't.
and to be clear, the information that we need is from a propane company or whatever, saying it cannot be installed anyplace
As far
else.
as I know.
And I'm going to also ask you, or tell you one more thing. When I
Yeah,
talked
we
to
can do the
Eastern
21st.
Propane, that's our,
Yeah.
people
We've
that
got a
we
meeting there,
use.
we can do the 21st.
I said, well, what happened with the last tank? He said, well, I don't know how it got put in between our homes, but he said, we had to remove it, it's against code and we won't do that. So, I was gonna call him again today, but he said, no, by code, we can't put the propane tank where it was in between our homes because it's too close to the property line.
But they did?
They
Yes.
took it out. They did, and then they took it
2020,
out,
Eastern Propane reset my tank for me.
and then took it out because it's against code.
But it's in now.
Different
I'm
No,
location.
now
confused.
they use
Different
Suburban.
location.
Oh, is it a different
Different,
location?
right.
Oh,
Different company, different company.
in between the
Yeah.
houses, it was on a different location, at a different location.
Right.
I see.
And it had to be,
That's incorrect. I switched propane companies. I had Eastern originally when I bought the house. I had Eastern Propane move the tank to where it is today. And with the new heating system, I changed vendors. Eastern took it out, and I'm with Suburban now, and they applied for a permit and installed it where it is. The same location. I did not relocate the tank anytime recently.
anyway,
only in
Eastern
2020.
told me that it's not within code, so they are out.
If,
That's a different question. Is it,
I'm wondering if we,
is,
if,
It's not within code, I'm sorry, I just want to tell you that.
well, our
Yeah,
code
but-
enforcement officer
Yeah.
is here, and if it's not within code, it's
I
a
would
different,
flag it.
huh?
Yeah, I would flag it.
So is it within code?
even
For a
though,
propane tank? I don't know, I haven't inspected it.
Maybe that would be,
maybe we can throw that out if we can,
right,
and then just deal with
that'd
it.
be, we don't need to go through all this if you inspected it, and it wasn't within code.
Can you live with the propane tank there and,
Short term,
no,
long term,
long term, and fix the noise problem?
um,
I'm trying to fix a problem.
okay, sure, and I can put up a nice, something that covers it. The propane tank.
Okay.
Does that make
That's good.
sense?
Yeah.
That's good.
For the record, you can't cover a propane tank.
No,
Can't
I'm
you
talking
can't
about a
include-
decorative fence.
I don't want to.
We'll get the same artist that did the gas tanks in Boston.
Corey, oh,
I'm sorry. I
Well, I have a
apologize.
Japanese,
What if we-
miniature Japanese maple there that I know that you wanted to have gone because it would maybe occlude something or another, but I can keep that there. I just don't want it axed or you taking your shovel again, or, I'm sorry, him taking his shovel around and trying to snap the roots, which I've seen twice happen. So I guess we decide, do I keep my little Japanese garden there with the little tree and we keep the propane? Fine,
May I say something?
Yes, please.
When we built, we put a small tree in there when we built our house. And so now this tree is big. It kind of partially occludes the tank.
it's, yeah.
I don't really care that much about the tank. Do you care that much about the tank? You care about the tree.
The danger, I care about my tree, right.
Okay.
And if this tree covers, it's only this big, so the top of the tank is still showing. But if it covers, if I can continue making my tree, get bigger and cover it, no
But
problem.
if we can solve a problem
Right, exactly.
and get the
The
unit out of
condenser.
there, and so
Yeah.
you can sleep,
Yep,
that would,
solve the
would
problem.
it solve a problem?
Why, actually, we can't do it with a tree. It might.
You're talking moving the condenser then?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would
Because that
help.
seems to be the,
That would help a lot, I think.
that seems to be the big problem. And
Yeah,
I agree with you.
and then I can keep that tree there, which is, by the way, 2 feet onto his property.
We didn't know.
We didn't know that at the time because he had bought it 3 years later, so.
For the record, it is on my property.
Yeah,
It's
oh, yeah,
encroaching
we said
on my
that.
house.
But when we put the tree in, we didn't realize it was on.
do you mind the tree being there?
I do. I don't have access to it, but I'm not. I allowed them to take it if they like it and work with them. They asked me to take the tank out for them to get the tree out of there, which I wasn't willing to do because that would take away cooking and hot water and heating need for my family, so I wasn't willing to remove the tank for them to take the tree, but I will certainly allow them to take their tree.
So I just want to clarify that this tree was there 3 years before he bought the house. Does that make sense?
That's
Yeah.
fine, but
Okay,
It does, but that really isn't our issue, trees.
yeah. Well, I think that Mr. Kurth would like it gone. So depending on what that is, if you want to look like a big white capsule, I can take the tree out and put a fence. That's,
So with all due respect to the tree,
yeah,
if it is on Mr. Kurt's property,
right,
it's his to do as he pleases.
right. So I'm
If
going
is
to
a
take it
civil-
out.
If it is a civil matter between the two of you and is not in the interest of the town,
Right. Except that,
no, there's no exception.
okay, so I'm going to take the tree out.
Okay.
Whatever.
so
Yeah.
we're looking at the 28th. It's a Tuesday night.
Well,
This room is open for a continuation.
Mike, I have getting back to Wayne's question again, if the propane tank is okay where it is, and it's within code,
Well, let's get it inspected first to make sure that it is compliant.
I think that's good. And then I guess the question would be,
I don't think we have a question that we,
no, if then would the two parties agree that if the HVAC unit were approved, or moved, that the issue goes away for the ZBA?
So for clarifying question, does this mean that in terms of the propane tank, does this mean that the only action that is needed now is inspection from the code enforcement officer and the research and everything
think
that
so.
is not needed now? Is that correct?
I think that's correct.
Okay,
So now we are only dealing with
so
the
now it's just the
HVAC,
AC.
which we know can be moved.
Is that a question or a statement?
Well, I mean, it's a great point. I'm assuming it can be moved.
It would be legal to have it
Huh?
under the porch,
I
wouldn't
just
it?
said, well, yeah.
That I don't know.
My
I told her
son-in-law has one under his porch.
I do
Yeah, no,
too.
I see them under
They're-
porches, below decks.
Yeah.
We do them all the
The
time.
low deck.
That's up to
Yeah,
him, not
yeah, I see
us.
that all the time.
Right.
So there's nothing illegal about that.
Yeah, so it could be moved to that spot.
It could.
I-
And then if it's moved to that spot, it's already been approved as a building envelope, because you have the deck there, so
Right.
there's no further action needed for that.
So, I'm thinking out loud here, which is
Yeah,
always
somebody
dangerous.
wants, yeah.
But is what's before the CBA now, is the HVAC unit, whether that unit qualifies for an exception
Well, for variance, yeah.
for variance?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
It seems to be where this is headed, yes.
And can we simply vote on that? Because
So you had your hand up, right?
Right, but I want to just backtrack. We had, back to the tree in the tank. We had expressed a desire to remove the tree, but it sits so, the tank sits almost directly on top of it. I had my landscape guy, Gary, said, I can't really get at it. So we asked Bradley if he can move the tank, but he declined to do that because it would cost money to move the tank. So we can't remove the tree that he wants us to remove unless he moves the tank. So is that a matter between him and I? Does that have anything to do with this board?
No.
If the tank is compliant where it is, that's
It is not
correct.
compliant, by the way. I did have Eastern come. The base of the tank, the pad, is not within setbacks to our home, to our
Yeah, but
property.
is it code compliant? Setbacks are different things.
Is it code compliant? No. It is
I
not.
don't know.
So
No, I'm telling you, it's not.
So that would be up to you,
So
right?
it would be up to me to decide.
It's a
Yeah.
platform setback, that was the issue.
It's really a code.
So now, yep.
To the HVAC placement, I would look for, personally, I wouldn't prefer the HVAC unit to be placed under my deck, so I'd look for other locations. And particularly where it is, my mechanical room is adjacent to it, so you have the condensate lines that are running in. So I would have to question placing that unit all the way around to my house. Is there a limitation on the distance with those refrigerant supply lines? You know,
Good.
it would create inefficiencies. So it was the best design practices to put it where it is because it makes it the most efficient. So I would still search for a location near my mechanical room to make that connection with the current HVAC condenser. So my question is, if I were to get a different HVAC condenser that is quiet, similar to the one that they have on their home, would that be acceptable?
I don't know, I mean, that's not for us, that's
I
for
don't
them
think
to
we know
decide.
that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine putting another something in between the two houses when that is the issue. You could get something else and maybe it has a different noise and a worse sound. So the whole point of this is to keep, we have taken so much time and so much effort to keep a clean line for our house. I don't know if you remember how ugly what was there, it looked like two crack houses. We've kept everything, we've got a nice neat wall. All the stomping around has taken, moved some of the stones around. I like it nice and neat. And furthermore, that's one issue, having it nice and neat, but the sound. So if you replace the condenser with something else, it's just like doing nothing, as far as I'm concerned.
Do we want to do a site walk this weekend, take a look at it?
This week?
This weekend?
Sure.
I can do early Saturday morning.
What'd that mean? you're a single guy, I mean, that's,
He's got a date.
11?
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know, 8 o'clock.
I've got no problem with that.
At night?
Morning.
Morning.
Wayne's gotta get his beauty sleep.
So, I'm just gonna throw this out there. My kid has a softball game at 9 o'clock Saturday morning.
All right, 7 o'clock?
9 o'clock.
No. We could do the sidewalk at 7.
We could do 6.
Wow.
So I gotta be, so I'm just throwing this out there that I wanna be there for my kids'
Yeah,
softball
of
game.
course.
Sunday morning? I know
Okay.
you gotta go to church,
I got
but,
church, yeah.
whatever.
I don't, Saturday work, Sunday.
I can't do Sunday.
8 o'clock
No,
Saturday
no more
morning,
for me.
I'll have coffee ready.
I'll bring the donuts.
I mean, you guys can certainly do
We-
8 o'clock
we-
Saturday morning, I just will not be there.
That's fine. And if we do a sidewalk Saturday morning, it's fine by me, but we can't be discussing it at the site. We're just going in to look. That's correct.
Duct tape.
Yeah, that doesn't work for me, Saturday, this weekend won't work for me, but that's just me.
Well, we're trying to expedite this, so if it works for 4 of us, we can do that.
You can always drop by, I drive by there. No, you can do a drive-by. You can really see it from the street.
After you've done the sidewalk?
You can do it yourself.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, just
Or we,
stop by.
or we
Well-
can all go in and walk around on our own. That precludes the possibility of discussing it out of meeting.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Fine, we'll do it on our own.
I'll
Might
be-
I make a suggestion? Can we have a neutral party, like a separate propane company come and say, well, here's some possibilities, and here's what's doable and what's not doable? Would that help?
If they give you a written statement,
Yeah,
If they get, that's fine. If you can arrange that and get something to work with,
fine.
I mean, you gotta provide us with evidence to work on. So
Right.
if you've got a propane company that says, the building code says this, the NFPA says this, that's not compliant, this is compliant, that gives us something to work with.
Yeah. Would Mr. Kurth agree?
I would do that.
Okay, thank you.
That would be really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's that. Now, about the condenser and the noise that causes, that nuisance factor.
Both of our bedrooms, by the way, my tenant and us, our heads are right by there.
Well, the issue with that is, as he mentioned, it's unlikely those units are gonna be kicked on at this time.
Well, it's coming quick.
Well, still,
Air conditioning is coming.
still, it seems to me that the condenser needs to be moved. That's my perspective.
Again, I think we gotta look at it and find out from your company or another company that, is there a reasonable alternative? I mean, I understand you wanna get to the mechanical room and stuff, and you don't wanna have to drag tubing across, and there are limitations on that. It should be in the O&M manual you've got with your condenser on what the maximum,
Run rate.
Yeah,
pardon?
Run rate.
Run rate
yeah,
is.
we
So,
can certainly identify how long it could be, but yeah, good point, could be tubes running across the backside of my house to get to it.
Here's my concern. My concern, we're gonna get an opinion.
you get dueling opinions.
Yeah, or it's subjective. I mean, this is, of course you can do it. You know you can do it. I mean, we do it all the time.
How creative do you want to get?
Exactly. I mean, I can I know you can do it. I mean, I'm not an HVAC guy, but we have hundreds of them in our units, and I know they can.
I've seen some pretty long
Yeah,
set runs.
yeah, they just, you know. So I don't wanna send this gentleman on a race that, and he comes back and somebody says yes and somebody says no. Propane is straightforward.
Right.
That's straightforward.
But I think part of the question here is that unit an unnecessary encroachment into the setback? And does it warrant us telling him to move it? That's the question before us.
I'm kind of, I don't know if we should jump ahead, but I kind of agree. And I think his points about public interest and nuisance of the sound and spirit of the ordinance and values of neighbors potentially being diminished are all quite credible in varying degrees. And were I have to vote on this today, I would be one that would said it should be moved. That's just me.
I serve at your pleasure, gentlemen. If you want to put that in a motion, if we want to discuss it some more, if we want to get some more information,
You mean the condenser?
that's all well and good, but I'm thinking that there's probably an alternative to the location. I don't know what it is, because I haven't gone through and walked the area, so I got no idea. Don't know what the capacity of the unit is, but I'd be,
Well, Mr. Chair, given the fact that there's probably another location for the condenser, I would move that we vote for it to be moved. I think that's what you asked for a motion.
And I would second that.
And I would add to it that we vote in or this can be separate. We vote to leave the propane tank where it is, providing Dave takes a look at it and make sure it's up to code.
Pending the inspection.
Yeah, I would,
So then it would be a two-part motion. There would be one motion to grant the variance for the propane tank with the condition that it passes code inspection.
right.
And then the second motion would be to deny the variance for the
Condenser.
for the condenser.
Yeah.
For reasons A, B, and C.
Yeah,
and we've got to have reasons.
You have to have reasons.
and I would say, going through the list that the gentleman went through, I don't see any hardship. I think it does diminish the value of the neighbors, could potentially. The nuisance of the sound, the spirit of the ordinance, and contrary to public interest.
Seems to me we would need two different motions regarding the condenser and the propane tank.
Yes.
That's what he said, yeah.
May
Yeah.
I just state that
Sure.
the condenser is not allowed to be there. It will be somewhat more visible in the vicinity towards the back of my house in Shanda Park. And the noise will still be there. And
Okay, we've got a street there too, and we've got a wastewater pumping station.
Yeah.
But the difference being, you move it to under the deck, that doesn't require a variance.
Correct.
That's a conforming spot. You can put it wherever you want that's a conforming spot. It just can't encroach into a setback.
yeah, understood. But it would be similar in location and noise. That's just a statement of it.
Mr. Chair, I think my motion was seconded. Is that correct?
Well, we need,
We didn't have a motion, I don't.
Yeah, you didn't quite make a motion. You sort of did.
Sorry?
You kind of made a motion, but it wasn't really,
Make it again.
yeah.
Okay, I move that we require that the condenser be moved.
That's not what you can do.
No. You can either you have to make a motion to either approve or deny the variance.
Okay, I make a motion that we deny the variance for the condenser.
For what reasons?
Sorry?
For what reasons? You have to give reasons.
Because of the difficulty that is presented for his neighbor.
The reasons that you all came up with were that no hardship had been expressed, that there was a diminished value to surrounding properties, that the nuisance was it was a noise nuisance, and it was contrary to the public interest. Those were the 4 things that you all said.
Yep.
So it's a motion to deny the variance for the condenser on those reasons.
Right.
Not that he has to move it, it's denying. Yes?
What? I'm sorry, I
It's-
don't understand.
It's our jargon here.
Yeah.
So now we need a second.
Second.
Your state legislature made it unnecessarily cumbersome, but that's neither here nor there.
You also need to have a vote on the 5 criteria.
Right.
I think, so
No,
table that motion for the second,
Yep.
for the moment.
we can just vote on one, we don't need to. In our bylaws, it says we can just do one vote
For the 5 criteria.
for the 5
Right.
criteria. We don't have to vote on individual criteria.
Right, no, I'm not saying that
Okay,
you do
that's
that.
fine. That's the first motion.
Second motion is to approve the variance if it is in fact consistent with code.
I mean, for the propane tank.
Yep. If it's consistent with code. So the tank can stay, HVAC goes.
Except that we don't know that yet.
That's
Right.
Bill's motion, and a second on that?
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Okay, let's start with a roll call vote on let's just go over that. So the first motion is to deny a variance for the condenser unit. The reasons being that there's no demonstrated hardship. There is an apparent diminishment of property value. It's contrary to the public interest. And the 4th one was nuisance? Okay.
Public nuisance. Yeah.
Public nuisance. In the noise, because of the noise. So that being said, that's the first one. How do we all vote? Henry?
I vote yes.
We deny, the yes denies it.
Yes.
Okay.
I vote in favor of the motion.
Correct.
Aye.
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 Okay, the second one is to approve the variance for the tank conditional on it meeting code. And that's would imagine that's the NFPA.
Yeah, NFPA 58, I believe. 56 or 58, one of the
Excuse me, can I ask a question?
2. Yeah,
Were permits ultimately gotten?
yes,
They were.
yeah, there's active permits out right now.
Gotcha. Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
we have a motion on the floor to approve. Do we have a second on that?
I'll
You
second.
second.
You did.
You
Oh, I did, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right, you
It's fine.
did. Yeah. I'm sleeping.
Just trying. So, Henry?
Aye?
Yeah. Aye.
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 All right.
So, I'll write up those notices of decisions.
Correct.
Have them ready by the end of the week. I'll have the notice of decisions ready by the end of the week.
Thank you.
And just to let you know, any aggrieved party has 30 days to file for a rehearing.
And if you file for a rehearing, you need to be able to point out where new information, basically, that wasn't available before.
So am I to understand that, so right now, how long would it be before he has to remove that condenser?
Good question. We haven't put a time frame on it.
Oh, I see.
So, I mean, I gotta put, as a code enforcement officer, I'm gonna have to put a reasonable time frame on it.
Mhm.
So I will consult with what constitutes a reasonable timeframe, and then go with that recommendation.
Okay,
So it could be 30 days, it could be 90 days. I don't know what the lawyer will say.
okay, so the lawyer that you work with within the town,
Exactly.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not going to be like 12 days?
No, it's gonna be in excess of 30 days.
And so then you'll let us know that?
Yes, Mike can give me a call and follow up. Yeah, you will not get a copy of his letter, but
Mhm.
you are most welcome to come into the office to request to review it. You can call and ask. Yeah.
And then my last question is, so what did you say about an appeal? What,
You have 30 days to make an appeal of our decision.
okay. And then, do we have to come back here again and do
Yes.
this all over again? Okay.
You would
But you
then
have to
provide
have
new evidence
That new evidence.
of
And-
whatever you want to provide, and then that would be the same for you in your AC situation.
And if you don't like the answer we gave you the second go-round, you can always appeal to the Superior Court and get them to figure out where we went wrong.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks.
We have openings on the board. Feel free to join us. This is,
Meetings are
this
in
is,
the evening.
this is not fun, but
I
I
don't
mean,
know anything about it.
we,
How do
We
you all
don't
know what
either.
you're talking about?
we've had to learn over the,
Oh,
there are a lot of good seminars on it, but we're always interested in having community-minded people on the boards.
Okay. Because the community's looking good. Shonda Park is looking great. Everything's looking good.
At low water.
Huh?
At low water, it's looking good.
I
Shonda
thought you
Park.
said you
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
water.
No.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Or seconded.
Oop,
Oh, wait, no,
hold
no,
on.
we can't do
What do
that
we
yet.
got?
We still gotta elect our officers.
Oh.
Oh, let's adjourn.
That just means you got another month in it.
Thank you
That's
for your
fine.
time. Thanks a lot.
I nominate, can we do that now?
You can do that now.
I nominate
Al, do you want
Bob
this?
for
No, I don't want any.
chair, and I nominate Wayne for co-chair.
You don't want any of it.
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
Thanks,
Gonna
guys.
wash your hands
Thank
of the
you.
affair, huh?
Get
Have
some
a good
sleep.
evening.
Night.
Seconded, all right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Nay.
What do we vote on?
Chairman
You're
and
you're
vice chair.
vice chair and who's chair. Unless you want to be chair.
Can I go home?
You can do that too.
Maybe we should do that, guys.
By the
We
way-
should do a little switchy here.
So I just want to make a quick announcement. We have hired Sue's replacement. We offered her the job last Friday. She accepted it today. She's expected to start after June 3rd. One of her roles may be to step in and serve as zoning admin if I'm absent. So she will definitely at some point come around.
Does she have credentials in that side of things?
So she basically is doing the same thing that she'll be doing here in Hooksett, where she currently is.
Okay.
So,
That's
there'll be a little-
wonderful.
Yeah, there'll be a little bit more responsibility for her here, but she'll definitely,
Is she from Hudson?
no, she's not.
Well, I've talked to Ken over at the wastewater treatment plant, find out what his case.
So, did
So-
we get all the votes for the board?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you, okay.
Yeah,
Very
I
good.
got it.
So anyways, I just wanted to pass that along.
Just making sure.
It's
Looking
been a wild
forward to
night.
training next week.
Okay.
That should be fun.
So when is it?
Huh?
When is the training?
Next Monday.
Next Monday at 7. John Heineken will be here.
Remind us.
Okay,
Always give a reminder.
Wayne,
Those
here's
that-
your reminder, John.
Oh.
I'll send out an email.
When
I'll
is
send
it?
out an email. Yeah.
Motion to adjourn. We still haven't adjourned yet.
Oh,
We haven't adjourned yet. Would you please go back?
I'm gonna go to the,
Yeah, well, that's
Adjournment.
where Henry went.
I got a
Motion.
77-year-old bladder.
Motion to adjourn?
We good?
Yes.
We're fine. Motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
We're
I'm making
adjourned.
that up. It's just fine.
3 votes.
Okay.
I just want